Good morning, and thank you for joining me today. All right, looks like we are on air and ready to roll. So fantastic. Thank y'all. And good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you again for that. Today's session is going to cover Market Insight. It's got a little splash screen on the screen there, a little title, opening PowerPoint slide that's got all my contact information. My name is Marilyn Maxwell. I am the Training and Member Outreach Specialist here for HAR, and I teach at a different place every day pretty much, and part of my focus is the Platinum tools. So I do these webinars each month. The first week of each month I do a webinar that gives kind of an overview of all of the tools within the Platinum package, and then in the last week of the month we try to do a singular focus. This one obviously is Market Insight, but we try to have property management, new contract information, so just a fairly well-rounded amount of information to kind of help keep you guys informed. So I'm really glad to see you all online today and hope that you get great benefit from this. Feel free to use the chat throughout the session. If you've got any questions for me as they come up, just shoot me a message. I'll try to stop at regular intervals throughout the webinar and check for those questions and address those as they come up. So I may not answer you immediately, but I will try to always answer the group messages as we go through. And then I'm also recording the session. So at the end of, sorry, somebody just sent me a message that we lost sound. Looks like everything's okay on my end, so I hope that's true. I'm recording the session, so in a couple of days, it usually takes 48 hours for the video to render into a format where I can send it out to you guys, so we should get that follow-up email. You'll get an automated follow-up email the next day just from the GoToWebinar system, and then you'll get an email directly from me in a couple of days with a copy of the link to the video recording and some other resources that I'll put in there for taking training on Platinum and things like that. All right, so I've got a PowerPoint. I've also uploaded it as a PDF for you guys, so kind of up near where you were seeing the chat feature, you should also see a handouts area. So what I'm going to use in my PowerPoint here is again available for you to just download as reference if you'd like to do that. Most of my presentation is going to be live on har.com using Market Insight, so you'll see all the steps hands-on, and the handout's just designed to give you a little bit of an overview or reference. So to start off with, the HAR MLS Platinum package of services is required to use the Market Insight report. It is one of quite a few tools rolled into that Platinum package. And again, switching over to har.com for you guys, we'll start with a little information about Platinum. And again, if you want to follow along, I'm going to repeat my steps here. I'm logged in and masquerading as someone else, so you may see an agent's name come up on some of these tools while I'm working with it. As an employee of HAR, I don't have listings and I don't practice, so we're borrowing Shad today. For purposes of good, not evil, we are impersonating him. So on the left of the screen, when you first log into HAR, into this members only portal, or MOP, click MLS on the left, and then you'll see MLS Platinum almost directly across from that, and then About MLS Platinum is the next choice after you click that submenu. And that'll just give you a little bit of an overview of the package if you aren't already subscribed. As he is, you often are eligible for a 30-day free trial if you've never used the Platinum showcase of tools. Then take advantage of that 30-day free trial. Typically, I say if you plan to take the class, wait until the day before or the day of that class so that you can be hands-on and have the full 30 days to utilize the tools and play around with them, practice with them, and see if it's something that is of interest and that you want to continue to subscribe and pay for. So you get 30 days for free, and then on that 30th day you'll have the option to continue on and pay and or cancel that subscription, or the trial just runs out. The subscription is $129 plus tax, so $129 plus tax comes out to like $137-ish a year. And you do get a full calendar year from the day you sign up. So if I signed up today, I have service from August 28th to August 28th. If I sign up September 3rd, it runs from September 3rd to September 3rd. So it's completely at your convenience if you choose to sign up. So it doesn't necessarily need to or have to coincide with your HAR dues and year end and things like that. So you can kind of construct that how you'd like, subscribe when you'd like, and begin that process. And then there's a little information on that page about each of the tools. Again, we'll have a webinar the second week of September. I'll be out of the office the first week of September, so we're bumping that one back a little. In the email that I send to follow up, I'll include a link to that other webinar if you're interested in watching that. So you'll learn more about all these other tools in that other webinar. The Tools to Enhance Your Real Estate Business class covers all of the tools, standard and platinum, and then our Platinum Lead Generation class covers just only the tools in the Platinum package. So if you are, again, interested in being hands-on in a classroom, there's some options for you, and all that's going to be in the follow-up email I send as well. All right. Excuse me. So moving on into MarketInsight. Again, once you're subscribed to Platinum, you'll have access to the tool. The only other requirement is that you have listings to use the first portion that I'm going to run through. There is a means of doing a perspective report, which I will also show you today. Because Shad uses this tool often, it's showing up in his frequently used tools area in the members portal in this lower portion of the screen. If you don't use the tool all that often, you will have different choices here and or no choices there. So if you haven't been into it before, you can get to it a couple of different ways. This quick search box right in the center of the page, if you just start typing MarketInsight, it's all one word, so MarketInsight. You'll be able to click and access it there. It is technically in the tools, marketing tools, and then MarketInsight sub-menus or menu path if you would prefer to go through the menus. Some folks are menu kind of folks and some folks are not, so we've got access to it either way. And then once you land on the MarketInsight section, you'll see pretty quickly there's a big pink button right there to start creating a MarketInsight, so that lets you quickly and easily jump right in. If we scroll down a bit, you'll see Shad's listing inventory. So all of these properties are currently active, and you can see why I use Shad's account because he's got a whole lot more compared to mine, nothing. We'll borrow one of his listings and set that up. So you can see the ones toward the bottom are not yet created, so I'll use one of those as my example today. The little piece of paper kind of looking icon on these, MarketInsight is created. If you hover on these, it'll tell you what they are. The MarketInsight is created, but no invitations, meaning no client email is put into that. It's not sending out yet. It was set up, but the setup wasn't finished in terms of sending it to a client. And then the ones that have a little email icon on top of the piece of paper means it is created and being sent to a client. So the idea behind this report, before we set it up, I'll just discuss it briefly. And it does have a learn more area, read more area here at the top, which will kind of explain it as well. But the idea is it's an automated report. When you set it up, you get to choose once a week or once a month for it to go to your client. When we created the tool, we originally intended that this would be sent to the seller of a property. Once you get the listing, which I realize I'm making it sound easy because it's sometimes pretty tough to get a listing. A lot of work and effort goes into that. But once you've secured that listing, we don't ever want that seller to think that that's all we did for them, right? We don't want to just get the listing and then kind of walk away. We want to keep them feeling warm and fuzzy. Remind them that we're still paying attention, we're watching the market, we're still the expert working on their behalf. And this is a means of doing that because once a week, delivered straight to the inbox from you by name, you're seeing what's new in the area, what prices have dropped in the area, what properties have sold in the area, and they get all sorts of detail on that. So the market trends and the market shifts, the insight into the market around them, as the name insinuates. And when you set the report up, the market, quote unquote, you have some flexibility over that. So it could be a zip code, it could be something large like a geo market area. You can also draw specifically on the map. So if you wanted to make it a very tiny specific area, you could do that. As we know with stats, you can have, stats can shoot you in the foot or help you out. Either way, it can go quickly one direction or the other, just depending on what activity that's out of our control is occurring and how often those changes are coming up. So let me just jump in here down toward the bottom for Shad's most recent listing here on 42nd Street. There's a little eyeball icon. The eyeball is to create a preview. You do have another opportunity to preview it a little bit later, and I would strongly encourage you to preview anything that you're going to send to a client. Make sure it's got stuff that supports what you're trying to accomplish or can accomplish with that particular listing. So you could click the little eyeball, generate a preview, just kind of check it out. I'm going to do a little cart before horse. I'm going to set it up for you guys first, and then we'll preview it so you can see what the end result would be. All right, so I'm going to click the little piece of paper here to create. I could, again, have started at the top with the big pink button that said Create Market Insight as well. So now, again, I'm focused on this listing on 42nd Street. As I scroll through, I can choose step 1, step 2, step 3, and then send it out. So I'll choose a couple of parameters and pieces of criteria within the report settings here. So here's my different pieces of my report. So if I preview any one of those, it's going to be fake data. So these aren't actual appointments related to that particular property, but it shows you a sneak peek of what that particular screen is going to look like. Again, most of them are named something fairly intuitive. So the appointments page shows you all the appointments that have been made on that property. And you can see here you can choose to include feedback or not. Again, we're sending this to our seller. So they, of course, are aware on some level of any appointment that was set on their home. And you probably have relayed feedback to them. But having one page that shows every single appointment, how that appointment turned out, any feedback submitted by that showing agent can be very helpful. If we start to see a trend where the seller's declining a bunch of appointments, well, that kind of gives us a talking point, right, with that particular client. So again, we'll see these report pieces here in just a moment. Listing traffic is going to, as it says, allow them to see the traffic of their home on HAR.com and in the HAR app. So it's going to let them see how many folks are seeing their home. Though they may not physically be walking in the home like with an appointment, there are still people looking at their home online regularly. So that traffic report, again, utilizes the stats from HAR.com and the HAR.com app to let them know how many folks are looking at their listing online. And then your subdivision and zip code trends, the last two pieces here. Subdivision and zip codes are fairly large geographic areas. The price trends in an entire zip code, for instance, the average list price for a home in the entire zip code may be a price that's just way off for what this particular property could or would be able to achieve. So I can uncheck the little pink box there and not include a certain report. I need to preview it first though, because the zip code trends and subdivision trend numbers may support exactly what I'm trying to do and really help me out, or they can really be totally off and not helpful to me. So I'll be able to preview the data on the report here in a moment. So I'm going to leave everything checked and we'll pick and choose a bit later if we want to keep something in. So scrolling on to step 2 here, your comparables or the geography, as I call it, the default is the zip code. So here it's defaulting to 77072. There are 27 homes currently for sale in that same zip code as my subject property. 43 recently sold and 9 price reductions. So a lot of activity in that whole entire zip code. Again, that could be a very large geographic area though. Do those 43 help me and support what my home is going to be able to do or not? We'll have to check it out here in a moment. Obviously, the smaller the scope, the more specific you are, the fewer results you're going to get. So if I switch to the Willowdale subdivision, for instance, the numbers drop significantly, but it's also more geographically appropriate to my listing on 42nd Street. So that may be the set of numbers I want to go with because there just isn't all that much going on in that same subdivision compared to the zip code. Some other options you have, a mileage radius, half a mile to a mile and a half. Again, a geo market area, which could be, again, something quite large, larger than zip codes in some cases. And then your last choice is you can search by map. So the big blue button there that says select area by map, once you click that, opens a map. And then up at the top right, you can click start drawing. And it's much like the freeform polygon in Matrix, and I'm just going to purposely draw some crazy shape. So that now is where it would look for properties. If I click use this shape, you can see I've got quite a few for sale, quite a few sold, and a handful of price reductions. In real life, that's probably a crazy parameter to search within. And just by the way, when the client gets it, they are going to see the outline of the freeform polygon that you drew. So they'll be able to tell that you traced down, around the loop or up 45 and kept them north of I-10 or south of I-10 or whatever it might be. I'm going to clear that out and just stick with subdivision because that seems to work fine, and continue on through the next steps. So property type, single family homes. It'll only compare the same kind of property to the same kind of property. So it's never going to compare a townhome for sale, for instance, to a single family home, or a rental to a sale, and that type of thing. This price swing, basically what it's saying, it knows the subject property's list price and it's going above and below that by whatever percentage you choose here to find those other properties for sale and price reductions. So the count of listings here is determined by, in part, this price range in the geographic area, and then you would choose a swing on square footage as well, to 5,500 all the way up to 2,000, whatever you choose there. And then the last choice in that section on step 2 is to show the sold price or don't. The actual sold price is revealed by default. Again, this is your client, so you have that relationship with them. So we typically allow you to reveal that premium data to that one specific client. It isn't information it's not public data, so it isn't something that they could just go online and find specifically on their own. It's just included in the report that you send them. If you check the box, it'll show them a sold price range instead. Sometimes when certain consumers hear a number, they can't get that number out of their head. So just because that home down the road sold for, $500,000 doesn't mean that their home can achieve that. It may have had a lot of updates or more square footage or something else that just made it an apple, not an orange. Nothing wrong with either home, just they're two different kinds of homes. So including a range instead of an actual detailed sales price can sometimes help in those instances. Again, personal preference there. Check it or don't check it, whichever you feel is appropriate. And then last but not least, step 3, how often you want to send it, our notification settings. So again, you have the option to choose once a week or once a month, and you can pick any day of the week. Today is Wednesday, so it presumes Wednesday, but I can switch that easily to Friday. I have a lot of agents who decide that they want to send all their market insights on Mondays. So, first thing in the morning, Monday morning, their clients all have this kind of warm fuzzy in their inbox ready to go and start their week off with a great update. Some folks send them out all on Fridays. Same reason, send them off into the weekend with a great update and just make them understand what's going on with their market. Again, you can pick any day of the week that you want, and every single market insight can be set up on a different day. So on this one, maybe Wednesday works well, and then the next client, I do want it to be Fridays or whatever you want to do there. And then monthly update is your other option. The monthly updates go out in the first week or so of the month, first couple of days of the month, and both the weekly and monthly option goes out pretty early in the morning, 6-ish to 8-ish on average, just depending on how many are in the queue and set up and waiting to go. And then I would always encourage you to send yourself a copy. That's the last choice down there. You always want to know what went, when it went, what it had in it. Again, what I call the warm fuzzy. I'm trying to make my client realize I still care about them. I'm paying attention to their market. I'm on top of things. Though it's an automated email, it can still impart those types of feelings, and that is the point, right? But if they get one and then email or call you and say, hey, I have a question about that report, you don't want to have to answer, oh, I don't know what that is. It's some automated thing I set up, right? So get that copy, pay attention, know what's going on in that market. And then I'm going to click next step. This part's a little quirky. Once I click next, it's going to pop up a window. Is it okay if I proceed? Yes. And then it'll pop up another box where I could then put my client's email or emails. Again, it tells you on the screen there maximum of 5 email addresses. So multiple emails can go in there, work emails, personal emails, husbands, wives, partners, business partners, whatever, multiple recipients of the same report. And again, just by checking the box in the previous step, you carbon copied yourself. However, I want to preview this before I send it to anybody. So I'm going to click the X in the upper right corner and close out of this section that's asking for the client email, because the next step is going to send it immediately. So cancel that email box or email window, and then about in the center of the page now you have a choice to preview. So you have to kind of almost create the whole entire report, stop just short of emailing it out before you're allowed to preview. So once we preview, now you can finally see what we just spent all that time creating. Again, I'm masquerading as Shad, so there's his face, his name, his phone number, contact information. Again, it's his seller, presumably, so they likely know how to reach him, but it's very quick and easy to get a hold of him from here. It's pulled all the photos from MLS and the stats, the square footage, price, and such from MLS, naturally, so the client can go through and see all the photos and everything related to the property there. Scrolling down a bit, now this is the big perk or the big difference in MarketInsight compared to just notification of new listings, this overview of stats. So it's showing me homes for sale and homes that have sold already. There are 6 homes currently for sale in that same approximate price range. Again, that range came from me choosing that percentage of swing on both the square footage and price. And then on average, 195 days on the market, so ouch, right? It could be a little while before the home sells. Looking at price per square foot, when they are listed, it's $171 a square foot. On average, once they sell, it's $154. So those numbers are kind of not so great for my client. So if I'm listing way up here and they're selling over there, well then my seller's going to have to concede on some stuff, right? If I go back in and change the geography of this report, instead of looking in that subdivision, if I draw a polygon or if I switch to zip code or something like that, it may come out a little more favorable. So you can play with it a little bit. If you just go back to your members portal area, all your steps are still available. You can play around with that and tweak it. However, this is a true reflection of that market currently in that subdivision. So this is now a point we need to address, right? If we're a little on the high end, we're trying to convince them to reduce the price. This is statistical information that can help support that. If we continue down the page, it's going to have a map of actual listings, sales, price reductions, so all the numbers that make up that particular report. Traffic, back in the upper left on the menu across the top, is again the number of folks looking at it on HAR.com or within the HAR app, and then the grand total. So they're getting some visual internet traffic, though they may not be getting foot traffic through their home. They're probably getting both though. And you can change that and view different months, month to month. This home's been on the market a little while, so again, we might be looking at needing to make some concessions. Looking at the appointments, again, fairly self-explanatory. So these are all the appointments that were set and confirmed. If there was any feedback provided, it would also be provided there. Again, you can see confirmed, so everything was fine, but it would say declined by seller, canceled by agent, and whatever other situations may have occurred. So again, it's a good running tally of all of the showings that have occurred on that particular property. The comparables tab, or comparables, depending on how Texan you are, shows much like the other report, the home page. Without the overview, it's the same kind of data on those solds, actives, price reductions, but this allows your consumer to tweak the parameters a little bit, focus on something different. So we can look in the last 12 months and only at those that were price reduced, or only those that were for sale, or all the activity in the market. So it just lets them kind of filter through and see it a little bit differently and get a little bit more global overview of their market. And then price trends, again, would be our subdivision price trends. Bear with me just a moment. Let me back up here. Didn't want to back up that far, but subdivision price trends. So this is saying the average list price in Willowdale is $302,000 or $171 a square foot. Median appraised value is $75,000, almost $76,000. This is a fairly newly constructed home, so obviously we're able to get a little bit bigger bang for our buck out of new construction perhaps than the tax appraisal value for that neighborhood might reflect. Again, do these numbers help you or do these numbers hurt you? If they support and help, leave the report in. As you're setting it up, just simply uncheck the subdivision price trend report if it doesn't help you. Same thing with zip codes. If we go over to the zip code overview, again, my median appraised value is 192.5. median year built, 1941, number of listings in the area. So kind of more generic numbers, but if they help, you feel like that's a positive report, leave it in. If not, uncheck the little pink box and leave it out. The last tab, the promotion tab, I don't know that you would do this all that often, but you could, I guess, send it to social media, post this report, a link to this report on that social media. I would take out the appointments. I would take out things that are, you know, very specific to that home and maybe seller sensitive type information. But the comparables tab, the home tab, those things are good generic pieces, and then that would be perhaps something I might post to Facebook or tweet out or something like that. So again, that's all the promote does, is allow you to quick post to a third party like social media or email. It's automatically being sent to your client though. So no need to click email from that screen. So kind of backing up to where I started the process, now that I've created the MarketInsight, I've got the little square piece of paper with the, it hasn't been sent out, no invitations are included. The pencil lets me edit any portion of that. So my market, my square footage range, price range, all those things. The eyeball lets me generate a preview. So I'm going to click the little pencil and go back in just to show you. Choose the contact to invite. That's where I can pop up that window to type in up to 5 emails, and then I'd hit submit in the lower right and send it out. So I can quickly start sending it to my client if I wanted. And then I can, again, change the geographic parameters if that's what I need to do as well. And a little further down, my usage report tools. So if I at this point decide that zip code trend thing, I don't want that, it's not helping, I'm going to click the little switch to turn it off. And now every time the client opens that link, they just don't even know that that potential report existed as a possibility. So it's gone. All right, scrolling down a little further, shared content. So this allows you to add in additional web URLs to promote something else, add new content, web page, a video, an image, a note. So you can add additional marketing, or again, maybe you did make a Facebook post about the listing itself, promoting the open house coming up. You could copy that web address, facebook.com/whatever it is, and include that here. So your client would be able to see the link, click the link, see the efforts you're putting into marketing their home. Or it could be a link back to your personal website, or anything like that. So again, you can tack on a little bit of additional correspondence or marketing of the home so that your client's aware of that. And then the reports and tools section across the top, different way to do the same thing we just did. Shared contents, different way to do the same thing we just did. And then our last button there is to, again, preview that. And as I mentioned, the zip code trends, it's just gone now. So they don't know that they're missing out on something, and they don't accidentally get information that could be irrelevant to them or not helpful. All right, so that is MarketInsight based on a current active listing. Again, tools, marketing tools, MarketInsight is the pathway through the menus to get there. And we can also do, as I mentioned at the top of the webinar, you can do a prospective report, or prospecting, they call it. Let me just check real quickly and see if I've got any questions. If you have a question, remember, just use that chat feature and submit that to me. Doesn't look like I have any questions, so we'll keep moving on. Again, just submit them as you think of them if you do come up with questions, and I'll address that again a bit further into the webinar. So prospecting listing/lessor is how it's written on that page. I call it prospective. I just can't break the habit of calling it a prospective report. Again, it does not require that you have listings if it's prospective or prospecting. So the scenario might be, I'm trying to get a listing. So I have the address of a particular party, and I want to do the same kind of report for their home, and do that email once a week, once a month, and kind of nurture them along. It's somewhat of a lukewarm marketing piece, I call it, because it is only one time a week and or one time a month. So it's potentially not as frequent as the matrix auto emails, for instance, and it's something specific to their home and what's happening around it in a quicker, easier overview than just individual listings. While it's good for them to know what's popping up and new and what price reductions are occurring and what is selling, for the math to be done for them to give them that global kind of overview of what that means for the market can be beneficial in a different way than the market or the matrix auto emails. All right, so create MarketInsight in this prospecting area is going to allow me to physically type an address. If you want to play with this and use, say, your own home address or something like that, you can do that. I'm just going to pick a random address. As long as it's got a tax record for that property, you can create a prospecting MarketInsight with that. The first thing to address, or the first question, for a lack of a better term, that it's asking is, do you want to look for other homes for sale or homes around here for lease? So is it a prospective lease or a prospective listing for sale? I'm going to do a prospective sale, so I'll choose this MarketInsight for seller. Again, single family home to single family home. And then it's got some basics from the tax record. So built in square footage is 62. The tax assessed value is 120,497. If I've already done a little research in Matrix and I know we might be able to sell it, market conditions could support, say, 135. I'll just switch that. When I go into the report, just like we had before, that percentage of swing above and below the list price on the previous one, this is going to let me swing above and below this tax assessed value. So again, you can tweak that number a little and make it work more in your favor if you need to do that. Next step in the lower left, again, looks really familiar. It's very much the same steps. There are a few things that are missing though. On a prospecting or prospective report, there is no market, there is no traffic report, there is no listing in Matrix, therefore not on HAR.com. So I'm not going to have that web traffic and I'm not going to have appointments, but I'm going to have all the other tabs that I had in the previous report. Though it only lists zip code and subdivision trends, I'll have the overview page and the comparables page as well. So looking a little further down, again, I need to pick my market, my scope, geography. Again, in the subdivision, I have way lower numbers. Westbury South is a very small little pocket of a section in Westbury in the southwest part of Houston, so there just really isn't a lot of activity. Again, there aren't a lot of numbers, but that's a true reflection of the market activity over there, so that may be what I need to choose for that reason. Again, if I expand a zip code or half-mile radius up to 1.5 miles or draw on the map or whatever else it might be, that could potentially help me. And I'm going to do a drawing here just so that you can kind of see what that looks like because, again, the consumer can see that. I just want to include that. And I'm just going to be quick as opposed to all that accurate. And then property type, again, limits itself to just that same kind of property. So now 15% above and below my tax assessed value I typed in there and or pulled automatically, and then my square footage range above and below the 1692. And then once a week or once a month. So same choices throughout this building of the report, just a little bit different output. So I'll click next step and say, yes, I want to proceed, and then cancel the pop-up for emails at this point to preview. Again, 99.9% the same layout. It's very suspenseful that it's going to take a little extra there. Though I don't have MLS photos on this one, I do always get a Google Street View as long as that's available. Again, pros and cons, we can't really control Google. The great majority of the properties in our area have Street View photos, so you're welcome. You have a photo. Sorry, it may not be the most glamorous, but at least there will be some photo in most every case. Again, it's featuring Shad and all his contact information there, his photo. And if we scroll down, we have the overview. So again, on average, 29 days on the market in whatever market scope or geographical area I picked. Buyer's market right now, favoring buyers. Our other report was market conditions were favoring sellers a bit. And then again, you can clearly see the polygon I drew. So I just wanted to be sure that you were aware of how that looks when the client sees it. So they're really aware of very specifically where it is you looked for them. And then again, the columnar comparison of listings, reductions, sold properties, and all of those pieces that we looked at before. Comparables again allows them to change the parameters. So look at a different time frame, focus on only those that are sold, focus on only that are active, or price reductions. Price trends is subdivision level, zip code level, price trends are available as well. All right, and then lastly, I didn't click on this in the other report, but it does give you an overview of the tax information of the subject property. So while they know probably what they've been paying in taxes, it's just a little extra information, overview of, excuse me, assessed values in that district, and a little more what I call sky-high overview of taxing in the area. So that is your prospecting or perspective. Again, you can just click choose contact to invite to add the client's email or the consumer. They may not be your client at this point. Add the consumer's email in there. You can also, instead of choosing carbon copy me at the end, you can put your own email only in this box and have it sent directly to you. And that way you know what's going on in a particular area. So again, if it's your farm, something you're trying to do, where you're trying to list, that could easily be sent to you just to help you kind of stay on top of things. All right, so that's our prospecting. Way at the bottom of the page, not quite all the way to the bottom, but close, on any report, the prospecting report and or the one created related to an active listing, there is a line right here that says if you want to remove this MarketInsight, click remove. So if the client wants to opt out, it's already offered up to them in the email message that they're getting, either once a week, once a month. So they can just simply click a link that allows them to unsubscribe. You'll get an email message to let you know that they have unsubscribed from MarketInsight, and it only affects MarketInsight. So if you have them also set up in auto emails and Matrix or anything else, it will not hinder those deliveries of other types of reports. All right, and then it's gone forever. Once you remove it, it's gone. So just be sure that's what you want to do. If they ask you to turn it off and stop it, you can easily do that for them. Again, if you had set it up to be emailing to yourself, you can opt yourself out, but it would be more beneficial to come into the report and remove it because we don't want it to turn off all the market insights for you for your email address. All right, looks like I've got a couple of questions here, so let me open that screen up and check it out. Is there integration where you can share Facebook ad info also? Thank you, Kayla, for that question. It's a little difficult with Facebook ads unless you have an actual URL, like a web address. It isn't part of what you can add to the content, and though it's internet-based, you don't really have a direct URL to ads on Facebook. So other than just letting them know that you have run that report, there isn't really an easy way to integrate that. Thank you, though, for the question. And Sherry, can you put more than one subdivision? No. On MarketInsight, my infamous pros and cons, it's just fairly basic. So one zip code, one subdivision, one shape on the map. So you could potentially use that search by map to encompass more than one subdivision, but you can't choose more than one from the drop-down. Sorry about that. I feel like both of those were sad answers to your questions, but I do appreciate that you submitted your questions, so that's good. Anyone else have any questions while I've got that open and we've taken a bit of a pause? Just let me know. All right, so the last tidbit I wanted to just mention, we saw that Shad's photo was on his report. I just wanted to walk you through quickly where to find that information. If you go into the My Account menu on the left side of the screen, and then personalize information. If you hadn't already, be sure that you upload a current headshot so that your consumers, customers, clients, whatever they are at that stage, are seeing a nice photo of you throughout the MarketInsight report, but also if they go to click on your name, contact you throughout HAR, you want them to be able to see your lovely face. Also, this is in My Account, and personalized information is where you can set up write out your profile and bio, declare any designations you have, add social media links to kind of cross-reference finding you on Twitter or Facebook or whatever else. So just be sure if you don't have a current photo in there that you do that. All right. So that technically brings me to the end of all of the parts of Market Insight. Again, if you've got questions, shoot those to me as well. If you don't, maybe that means I did a fantastical job and you're ready to use Market Insight. Just to kind of briefly show you the web page you can go to, if you go to har.com/edu, which is potentially where you went to register for today's webinar and where you've been before to register for other classes perhaps. har.com/edu, or you can spell out education. Either way, it'll get you there. There's a webinars tab in the upper right area. If you click webinars, you'll see all the different webinars that I'm hosting. Again, we do the perks of Platinum regularly every single week, the first part of the month, each month through the end of the year. We've got those scheduled. The only exception is September, which will be the second week of September because I'm going to be on vacation. And then again, we've got one coming up on residential leasing, transaction desk, the branded app, and contracts information. Some changes are going into effect September 1st, change in the seller's disclosure, things like that. So Nancy Herzig will be our guest and help discuss some avoiding risks and things like that. And then we have a broker series. If you are a broker of a company, broker admin or managing broker, then a managing broker, then you should attend those, but they are going to be by invitation and broker-centric only, so they won't pertain necessarily to individual practicing agents. And my chuckle was to you, Kayla. Thank you so much. That's really sweet. I really appreciate that comment. I feel like I'm looking sneaky in that picture, so I appreciate that you said something nice. Still getting used to it. All right. Excuse me if I don't pronounce this correctly. Jaron Lazo, can you use Market Insight for buyers, or is it mostly designed for other sellers? I do think that you can use it for buyers. Technically, yes. When we originally created the tool, it was for sellers, but you can easily use that prospecting report for a buyer. The hinge of the report is an address. So if, let's say they were trying to buy a particular property and it sold, it's gone, right? They still loved it, and I could then put that address in as the Market Insight subject property, and then it would show me everything to kind of help them get over it, right? They're sad, they lost that one, but look, right down the street there's this other active. Over here the prices are dropping. We can get some great deals because of the shift in the market and things that are selling. So I think that would be a really great way to use the tool, is for current buyers or prospective buyers as well. Again, you could send the report to yourself. Let me go back and preview one. Remember, it's got Shad's photo and such in the top portion. Oops, sorry, I meant to poke it in the eye and preview. It focuses pretty heavily on the address in that top left corner, but that's the only place it references the property address. So you could even pick just a house in the middle of the subdivision that they're trying to get into and build the report around that. Again, the photo from Google Street View and that address are kind of prominently there, but really the rest of the report would be the meat that they would want to focus on. So yes, great question, Jaron. Thank you. Again, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. All right, awesome. Any other questions? Let me know. All right, very good. Thank you so much. We still have a few minutes left, but since y'all don't have a lot of questions, I don't want to tie you up. Your time is your most important asset and commodity, so I really appreciate you devoting 45 minutes of it to me today and this tool. I hope, again, that you get great use out of it. Give me, again, two days or so to process the recording. I've got to edit the recording and get it posted on our YouTube channel, our HAR YouTube channel, and then I'll follow up with you by email. So you'll have a link to the recording, links to the webinars that I just showed, and then also links to our classroom training on Platinum tools. Feel free to call or email. If I can do anything for you, I'm glad to help with any of the HAR tools, matrix stuff. That's what I do here. I am your outreach person, so reach out if I can be of help. Thank you all again so much for joining me today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, feel free to shoot me an email if you come up with a question that we weren't able to handle online. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.